Welcome to the Strong Casuals podcast. My name is Ben, and I'm here with my brother Eric.
Hello. What's up?
We are sans Anthony today. Unfortunately, he's got some family stuff that he's dealing with, but we're with him spiritually. We're going to talk briefly about England's Strongest Man and Britain's Strongest Woman results. We'll sort of take here's the thing that they did and how well people did on it structure. And then maybe talk about East vs. West Challenger Series at the end, though that's a bit of a hot button issue. And maybe we want to dedicate an entire episode to that. Maybe. I don't know. So we'll start at the beginning. So last weekend, June 22nd, was England's Strongest Man. It's a Giants Live competition. It's a little different than World's Strongest Man. At Worlds, there's a qualifier as a part of the event, and then there's the finals. And England's Strongest Man is a little different because essentially you've already qualified to be in it. So there's 13 competitors. It's scored the same way as other strongman competitions, which, if you're not familiar, the number of people competing is the number of possible points. So if you come in first, you could get 13 points. If you come in second, you get 12, etc. All the way down to if you come in 13th, you get 1. And so in this case, there was 5 events, all events that we've seen before, though some of them pretty fun. We'll talk about, I think, one that I think is pretty fun. And they're pretty I think they're becoming standard. Last episode, I said that my top individuals in the that I expected to do well were Luke Richardson, Mark Felix, Kane Francis, Patty Haynes, and I might have mentioned Ryan Bennett. I was wrong. I was right on 2 accounts, and I was wrong on 1. So the Kane Francis won, came in first with 52 points. Andrew Flynn came in second. And then Patty Haynes came in third. So I was thinking Luke Richardson was going to make a bigger comeback. He's been dealing with some bicep issues.
What happened to his bicep?
I'm relatively confident he tore it.
Sounds painful. And
a lot of this stuff is obviously bicep related. So, but he's been kind of struggling. Not struggling. It takes time to come back from stuff like that. So maybe I oversold that, and that's understandable. But Andrew Flynn, heck of a show. Kane Francis, heck of a show. We're going to see more of him. We saw him at Worlds, and I'm sure we'll see more of him. And then Patty Haynes destroyed one of the coolest events that I think Strongman has, which was pretty cool. So there were 5 events. First event was a loading race. Loading races are common in Strongman. Essentially, the idea is you're taking very heavy objects, moving them to a platform.
To be loaded.
Yeah. And so you're taking them from one place to another and then loading them on top. So in this case, there were 4 things.
It involves movement and the loading?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to carry it over a distance, and then you have to load it on the thing.
Talking like packs of shingles?
So, back in the day, there's been some weird ones. They're like way back in maybe the 80s. They liked nautical based things. So sometimes there was anchors and stuff like that. It's not unlike the sandbag steeplechase, if you've been paying attention to stuff, where you're just moving heavy things from one place to another. So in this case, there were 4 different things. The first thing was an anvil that weighed 242 pounds. So they had to carry the anvil over and load it. The second was a keg, which was 264 pounds. And then a sandbag that's 330 pounds.
I feel like that's probably awkward to hold on to.
Yes. I think people outside of the world, when you try to pick up a sandbag the first time, I don't think people realize how hard it is, because it's a limp sack
moving around on you.
Yeah. And there's no really good way to pick it up. A lot of sometimes they do natural stone lifts, so it might be stone to shoulder and it's a natural stone, and so those are kind of hard because Like,
I mean-
you can train natural stone as much as you want, but
Sandbag's more of a floppy natural, perhaps.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a limp natural, and so like there's awkward implements like natural stones, but they're solid, right? They don't move around. Sandbags are just big floppy sacks. And then the fourth implement was a tire, a 264-pound tire.
They like have to pick it up. They can't just roll it.
Yeah, no, they have to. Yeah, they have to pick it up, and essentially you win if you do it the fastest. So as long as if you can move those 4 implements the fastest you can do it, that's fine. Now Luke Richardson won this event, so Luke was coming back, as we've said, from a bicep thing. He won this event for all 4 implements in 36.87 seconds. So that is fast.
All of them in that time?
Yeah.
Wow.
And as a sort of a bigger thing, strongman has the divide between like, not a divide, but everybody has their own opinion about what is an appropriate event. And sometimes loading events, like it relies on some amount of speed, right? So if I'm giant and I can static lift a ton of weight, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm good at things like that. So like at the last, or in more events, we're seeing things like deadlift ladders where someone has to run between things, but loading has been around forever. But Luke Richardson won the event. Kane Francis came in second, which was huge. And then Andrew Flynn came in third. So right off the bat, guys making some good headway, especially Kane Francis, who I'm really excited to see compete more. The second event was a dumbbell press. Yep.
So
it's
lifting.
It's a giant dumbbell. Like some of them call them circus dumbbells because they look like sideshow dumbbells.
Like they're round. No.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, sometimes they're round. And like you, so
But
basically,
they're doing like a bench press motion, but with dumbbells in each hand.
so you're standing.
You're standing.
Dumbbells on the ground. You have to pick the dumbbell up, usually rested at about the shoulder, and then it's kind of a push up, and that's one rep.
Yeah, I think I saw these.
So, I mean, it's a 100%, I think, which I can't vet this, but I think it's a product of sideshows. Because I mean, and that was like a really common, like dudes in like the weird singlet leopard print thing, and they're like
Unitard
holding
thing
it.
over one shoulder.
Yeah, because they're the strong men of past or whatever. And then, so you have to lift it up, and that's a rep. Sorry. And then you see how many times you can do that, essentially.
So there isn't a time limit on it, just however many you
There's
can
a
do?
time limit, yeah.
Okay.
So it's how many reps can you get in the time. I'm trying to find the exact weight of this thing is driving me insane. Okay, so it was a 90 kilogram dumbbell. It's like what? I can't do that math in my head. It's heavy.
Yeah. 90 anything's probably pretty heavy.
Yeah, 198 pounds.
Darn.
Which is insane if you think about it, with one hand. But there's significant technique involved. But you basically overhead press with one arm almost 200 pounds. And then how many times you can do that. That was an interesting...
They have to like put it on the ground again before starting a new rep? Okay.
Yep. Usually there's like a big pad, like a big sort of like, I don't know, pad under them, and then they drop it and then they can do it again. And then the judge will give them a down command. So they'll pick it up and they'll press it until they've completed a rep, and then we'll say down, and then they'll get another one. So there was a 3-way tie for first in this, with 7 reps between Oliver, Ralph, and Andrew Flynn. And if I'm Andrew Flynn, I just tied for first in my second event. I took second in the first event. I'm feeling pretty good. I think he's got some... I say this about everybody, but I think he's got a good future in the world of strongman.
It's good to hear. Are these younger guys?
Yeah, I mean, they're generally younger compared to some of the other guys. Mark Felix, we talked about last episode. He's been in this for like 24 years. He's been competing at like this level for 24 years. And he finished 9th out of 13, which is not bad at all. And he, so yeah, I mean, young comparatively, yeah. But like, late 20s, 30s. But I mean, in strongman, that means they've got a solid 10 more years probably of like competing at this level, pending any large or significant injury.
I was gonna say, as long as you're keeping your body together.
Yeah. That's a serious concern. Which actually sort of makes what Mark's doing pretty amazing. The last one, or sorry, not the last one. The third event was a deadlift. It's a pretty standard deadlift. Or it was a standard deadlift, and then a standard deadlift for reps. So in the world, there's a difference between a max deadlift, which is like how much can you lift, and then there's deadlift for reps. How many reps can you do at a certain weight? So they're sort of two different games. One is like a game of somewhat deciding like what you're going to lift, or where you're going to sneak in, or like a powerlifting tournament or powerlifting period where you're deciding the max weight you're going to do. Whereas with the reps, it's I'm going to go in, I have this amount of time, and I'm going to rep as many times as I possibly can. It's I don't know. I would love to talk to like an actual strength athlete to find out which one they like better. I suppose it depends on the person, right? Because some people might want to or prefer maybe a lighter weight to see if they can rep it out more times, or some people just want to do one lift. This is a 350 kg deadlift.
Dang.
7. No.
Should memorize these conversions.
Yeah, it's clear that I don't power lift much. 771 pounds.
That's heavy.
So that's significant. Which little teaser. We have a friend who does a lot of data stuff. Mm-hmm. We got him turned on to the Strongman Archives website, and he's been crunching some data. So look for a strength by numbers segment.
Running some numbers. Yeah.
And he the just cursory things found there's something about an 800-pound deadlift. Like when you run all the numbers through and you look at all the competitors over time, there's this weird collection right around 800 pounds. There's obviously outliers above them and below them, but there's this weird thing about the 800-pound deadlift.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear
I think
that analysis.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's exciting. So the what am I saying? There was another tie at 6 reps for this. So yeah. Andrew Flynn and Patty Haynes and Kane Francis tied for first in this. And 6 reps at 700. I mean, it's like hard to even...
I know, it doesn't sound like many, but you're like, man,
yeah,
that's heavy.
No, it's like
think about the 5th one, I don't know, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how, like, I don't know. It's hard to even comprehend. I don't know. Yeah. When you see
Anthony,
these guys,
I do the least amount of weightlifting, which is none. So
yeah. I've done, like, I'm not going to say numbers, but I've deadlifted more than half of that. Like, more than half of that.
Was that hard?
Yeah, it was very difficult. So like I'm casually strong, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to fucking comprehend. So the next event's my favorite event. It's of this thing, and it's the wrecking ball hold. So there's a lot
of
a
Miley Cyrus type thing.
Yeah,
okay,
came in like a wrecking ball. A lot of events have something to do with like grip strength, like holding a bar in sort of a deadlift position and then like either holding or moving something. So last episode we talked about power stairs, where you have this like it looks like it's a weight with a T-bar on top of it, and then you pick it up with both hands and you move it up to the next step, and then you go to the next step. This is a giant tower, and then there's a huge wrecking ball in the middle of the tower with a chain going up to the top, and the athletes stand on the top of the tower and they hold a bar and they sort of like deadlift the wrecking ball up off the ground, and then they have to sit there and hold it.
Okay.
And see how long they can hold it. There's been a lot of events like this through the history of World's Strongest Man or Strongman in general.
I kind of remember some old school things like this where they're just like shaking uncontrollably.
Yeah. I don't know. And a lot of them, the Giants Live has done a good job of bringing some of those like static holds back, like the sword hold out in front of you. They did a hammer hold.
Yeah, I remember those from back in the old ESPN.
There was one really funny
Saturday with things.
Yeah. And so this, I think it's a people pleaser. Like crowds love it because it's this big thing, you know, like people that are just coming to watch a spectacle. If they watch someone deadlift for like 20 minutes,
it's like a thing you can start cheering them on.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they did. And if you watched, great. If you didn't, you can still watch the replays on. We should be sponsored by Official Strongman
on the internet.
Yeah, you can find them on the internet. And the whole time, so. Big Laws and was doing a lot of the like commentating, and I don't know, what I want to know is if they could hear, if the commentators were like I don't know, like if the athletes could hear them, because they were like talking the entire time these guys were holding, and they're like gritting their teeth and their like face is about to explode, and then you just hear like, they must be really hating this right now. Like, I can't imagine being the guy.
Either that would like motivate them to be angry about things, or just laugh.
Yeah, like shut up. Maybe the anger of them, better. But Patty Haynes absolutely destroyed this, and so Patty Haynes is a farmer, and I mean,
classically strong people.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to like grip. Mm-hmm. And he actually has one of these. He built this implement at his farm. Huh. So I think, I don't know, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure of all of the 13 competitors, he's the only one who's like trained on this, like trained the actual
Did
implement.
You say how heavy the wrecking ball was?
Yeah, 242 kg. So we should just have like a giant table in front of me or something. That's 533 pounds.
Okay.
So static holding, 533 pounds. But he has one on his farm. Also, probably, just a generally grip strength person. I've heard from, and like experienced, like with grip stuff, a lot of time it's also just overcoming the pain of grip. Like it's
like it pushing into your fingers kind of thing.
Yeah. And it just sucks. So the athletes that are competing that are a little bit sort of off their gourd usually do better. I'm not saying Patty Haynes is off his gourd. In fact, he's just probably good static strength, but there are other
Pain
guys
management
who are like
more than strength. Yeah,
and it's a psychological thing. Quick side note, if you want to like watch well, there's a lot of coverage of it, but Eddie Hall talks a lot, not a lot, but he talks about like the psychological things that he had to go through to try and get the 1,000 pound deadlift. And like, I don't know, he alludes to it being some pretty serious stuff, but I mean, it's a bit of a mind game too, mind over matter. But so he held it for 101.12 seconds. So I mean, that's
almost 2 minutes.
That's almost 2 minutes.
That's the math I can do.
I mean, it's 20. That's insane. It's hard to comprehend that amount of time. The next, or it's just, I don't know. It's absurd.
Yeah, that would definitely be a fun one to watch.
Yeah. The second place was Luke Richardson at 96.59 seconds. Okay. So I mean, it's like he's, when seconds matter, he's doing what he needs to do. So I mean, I think that was fun to watch. If you go back and watch Nothing, there's some pretty good coverage of that on the internet. Just watching those guys compete and enjoy every moment of it. It's just pure pain that they went through, but they did it well.
I mean, I like watching people suffer.
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's
great.
kind of what all this is. You know, we gave up gladiatorial battles for this. I mean, yeah, it's true. And then last was Atlas Stones, or the Atlas Stones, which if you're at all familiar with strongman, you've probably seen or come into contact with Atlas Stones. They're just big, giant spheres.
Progressively heavier.
That get
put them
heavier.
up on the barrels.
Yep. So if there was 5 stones from 100 to 180 kg,
do people in the strongman community like really feel like that's a good, fair test of overall strength?
I think the event itself, yeah. The biggest thing is the fact that they use it as a tie. It's not even a tiebreaker. They use it as a qualifier in World's Strongest Man.
I see. Were you guys talking about this in another episode?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So they use in your group. If you come in first, you're in from the qualifiers, and then second and third have a stone off, no matter what. So, I mean, yeah, it sort of tangentially gets a bad rap because it's functioning as that, but as a lift, it's pretty well. I mean, it's well respected. And there's been guys who are known for their Atlas stones.
So it comes down to like how fast they're getting.
Yes. Yeah, but weight matters a lot too, because the peak here. So 180 kgs was the heaviest stone, which is 396 pounds. And like that's significant, but like some guys, well, no, they're just really good at Atlas stones. Like Brian Shaw, I mean, he's retired now, but was amazing at Atlas stones. Right now, Tom Stolman is unbeatable at Atlas stones. And yeah, I mean, I think personally, when I think of strongman, I think of Atlas stones because it's a static lift in the sense it is a static lift. I mean, you're lifting a ball from, the ground to a podium, and it gets higher and higher and higher. Yeah, usually the height goes down, but
as more like mainstream visibility goes, those videos of dudes just kind of crushing the Atlas stones make the rounds on the internet.
Yeah,
fairly frequently.
Yeah, I mean, I think people. Yeah, and it's been around forever. You know, like they've been doing Atlas stones for a long, long time. And then Kane Francis won that, which sealed the deal for his first place win. He did all 5 implements in 18.54 seconds.
Quick.
That's very fast. So the next fastest was Patty Haynes at 21.19 seconds. So seconds in front of people. This is completely unrelated, but if people are care about sports, they might have watched this. Did you happen to catch any of the swimming Olympic qualifiers?
For this year, upcoming Olympics? Yeah. No.
So
2024 is the current year.
Yeah. Is it Katie Ledecky? Right? She's the really, really good.
Yeah, name sounds familiar.
She was in a qualifier where she finished 20 seconds before anybody else. So she swims down and then gets to the end, and then she just hangs out for 20 seconds. She's
goes back, showers, puts her regular clothes on, sits in the stands, cheers on.
Right. You can number do it. 2. Yeah. It was hilarious. I mean, obviously you get you got to save face and stay in the pool and be oh, let's wait for the results and whatever. But it's what do you? I don't know.
I mean, no point in holding back, you know.
No, I know. I mean, but it's I don't know I don't know. In a sport where this, fractions of a second mean the difference between first and last, and there's 20 seconds. I don't know. Way to go. Excited to see you in the Olympics.
Yeah. It's coming up.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the event. Remember, this is England's Strongest Man. So there's Giants Live has England's Strongest Man, Britain's Strongest Man, UK's Strongest Man. There's a few of them. But Kane Francis, heck of a production or heck of a performance. Patty Haynes came in third. Great performance, especially on that wrecking ball hold. I think if we see anything in the future that has to do with static holds, I think he's. I don't see him being squashed by any means. Mark Felix did really well. I think for Mark Felix, I mean, no, he came in ninth, but he came in third in the wrecking ball hold. Did really well. He's always, I think he's known for that. There's a video that meets the masses a lot of times on the internet of him doing the Hercules hold, which is like two giant columns that you hold up by the chain.
So they're
sort of like
they're
Samson
out.
Yeah,
Okay.
They're like dropping out, and you have to hold them. Mm-hmm. And he's wearing a kilt while he's doing it.
Yeah, I mean the strong guy's wearing a kilt, man.
I don't know. We could do a whole thing about the Highland Games, which would be fun.
Really?
But yeah, so my predictions were right on two accounts, wrong on Andrew Flynn. Andrew Flynn, I'm sorry, but you did really well, and that's good.
Excellent.
I was slightly better on my predictions for Britain's Strongest Woman. So we're changing here. This is not England now. This is Britain. Britain's Strongest Woman. Lucy Underdown won, which I'm not surprised. We talked about her a little last time. Deadlift is insane. Like she's going to break all records, I imagine. Rebecca Roberts came in second and Donna Moore in third. So all names that we talked about quite substantially last episode. If you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to that episode.
Check it out.
And their events, I'm not going to explain all of them again because they're the same.
I see.
Obviously, weights are different. I shouldn't say obviously. I would tell you weights are different. So some of the weights are a little bit less. But so they did a loading race first. They also had 4 implements that they had to move. It's the same idea, same concept. You're moving heavy things from one place to another. They also had 3 implements. The first was an anvil at 220 pounds, a tire at 198, and then a sandbag at 220. And
how do they carry the tire? Is it just sort of like lifting up, like on the inside of it? Okay.
Well, yeah.
I feel like that the
depends.
oddly shaped things, you get kind of creative with how you
Yeah.
hoist them up.
Yeah, that's awkward. Sandbag's awkward. Anvil is actually kind of like, because it's got that sort of waist on it. And so that makes it
like you just kind of hug it.
kind of like Husafel stone it or shield carry it kind of. But same idea. They got to carry those things over a distance and then load it onto a thing, which I mean, I feel like adds. I know it seems maybe not inconsequential for some people, but like being able to lift it onto that thing is significant. Like you're not just running past the line and dropping the implement. Like
so, do they take a little break before loading it, or are they just
not usually?
Go?
It's
Okay.
like the last maybe couple last step. They'll kind of wrench the torso back
Launch
and then
it.
slam it on the thing. In some cases launch it. When World's Strongest Man this year, when they did the sandbag steeplechase, which was the same idea, but they put a yoke in the middle of it. So they just put like a hurdle in front of it, in the middle of it. So you had to go like toss the bag over the hurdle and then do it. Guys were just like lifting the up and just trying to like chuck it as far as you, which makes sense, right? I mean, it's using your
keep the momentum going.
Yeah, and that's a part of strongman that's different than basically every other sport, because there's different ways to do everything. And some of it is just the know-how of knowing how to do the thing correctly.
Yeah, kind of comparing it to like arm wrestling. You know, people come up with sort of new techniques to, do the same,
Right.
Accomplish the same goal, and that's kind of, I don't know, from a sport perspective, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think people like to see that.
Yeah.
Kind of innovation.
And with the sheer number of events you could be doing, like you got to be ready.
Yeah.
And I mean, before, with every event, to my knowledge, with every event, you have before the event, there's like sort of like an event intro where all the athletes can come and try out the things and like look at or kind of feel what's going on, pick up the weights, look at them, maybe not pick all them up, but at least get an idea for what they're going to be like. And so they can kind of in their head start figuring out how they're going to do stuff, which that's huge because you're figuring out how you're going to do possibly the first time you've ever done this. Like, other than Patty Haynes, I don't know many people who have a 20-foot tower in their backyard with a chain and a giant thing hanging under it. So, there's like analogous things that you can do. But not everybody's training the actual implement. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, it's an interesting concept that's not really in a lot of other things. Okay, so sorry. Laura Baxter came in first on the loading race out of Scotland. She did all 3 implements in 37.76 seconds. But
quick.
So Lucy Underdown came in second, and she just tore up the rest of the events. Like,
what's her name? Lucy
Underdown.
Underdown.
Like, I want people to, if they're listening to this, to look up everybody. But if you're gonna like pick a person to start with Lucy Underdown. She's an insane athlete.
From Scotland, you said?
No, she's from England.
England. Okay.
But Baxter, the one that won that loading race. But so she came in second in the loading race. Dumbbell press, so same idea. Giant dumbbell, floor to overhead press. There's a 60 kg. It's like 150 pounds.
I'm gonna make some little like
132 pounds.
For,
yeah,
weight conversion that we can have
excellent
at our fingertips here.
Like freedom converter. 130 pounds, which that's a lot. And then so Lucy Underdown got 4 reps in that for 9.5 points, which put her tied for third. But over half of the athletes did not get a rep in the dumbbell press. Wow. So that's also also kind of a unique thing about strongman. Like, sometimes you don't even people don't even, or they're not able to accomplish a single thing, like a single rep of the exercise, so they don't get any points.
That is wild.
So like over half of the athletes just weren't able to do one. And she tied for third at 4 reps, which is insane.
Yeah,
but it's an interesting. That doesn't happen in like. Well, I guess it does kind of happen, but not in like organized team sports necessarily. Because if you don't do the thing, you might lose a point or something, or you might not like. You might have another chance at whatever. But Andrea Thompson came in second on that, and we talked a lot about her last time. She's won masters competitions, etc. But she finished 6th in the overall event, but she took second in the dumbbell press. And I think that's maybe a product of the fact that it is a more technical thing than other stuff. Like a deadlift, most people have been, if you're like a strength athlete or you're into resistance training, you've been deadlifting since day one. Loading race, like you can practice it, but essentially as far as like motor skill is concerned, like you're lifting a thing and carrying a thing. Wrecking ball hold static. Atlas stones, yeah, there's some technique there. But of all these things, a dumbbell press, like successfully getting it to your shoulder and then pressing it, like there's a lot that can go wrong in that process. And I think Andrea Thompson was able to show a lot of skill because she's been doing this for a long time, or longer than a lot of these other athletes. So she did pretty well. But the fun part for the rest of the competition was Lucy Underdown won everything else.
Wow.
So second
Not
place.
the underdog. Or...
No, not by no means. So second place in the loading race, tied for third in the dumbbell. Yep. And then won the deadlift, wrecking ball hold, and Atlas stones. And
wow.
by some room.
Some Katie Ledecky leads there.
Yeah. So she won by 10 seconds on the Atlas stones. 3 on the wrecking ball hold, which isn't whatever. But she got 13 reps on the deadlift. Second place got 11. So she just kind of destroyed the rest of the thing. The deadlift does not surprise me at all. Like, she is going to be like Eddie Hall level deadlifting within the realm of like strong woman or competitions. I think she doesn't have a sponsor. Maybe she does have a sponsorship with a bar company. I think it might be Kabuki Strength. I'm not sure. It might not be
A bar company?
Yeah, like that makes lift bars.
Lifting.
Yeah. It might not be Kabuki. I'm not sure who it is, but she should, because she's an insane athlete and she's young. So I mean, I think she's got a lot of time, and as long as stay injury free as much as you can.
Do they, as the least initiated here, I mean, do a lot of the injuries happen while competing or while training, or just
All of the above.
Tripped
All of the above.
getting out of the shower?
Well, yeah. At least most of the ones, a lot of them happen doing whatever the motion or doing whatever the thing is.
I was gonna say, like, where you're competing on reps, or like where you're going, where you're pushing yourself
Right.
more than you would training.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing about like strength sports that's different from a lot of other sports. Like if you play football, you train in the off season, kind of, and then you go in and you play the game. And it's not like you kind of ramp up your training to get to the season, but then the season is like, months long. Strength sports, it's like your training ebbs and flows with when you're going to compete. And it's kind of like you're climbing a ladder, and then you get to this moment at the top where you're performing at the peak you possibly can. And obviously you need to come down from that, because that's why we don't see all the same people. We don't see every athlete in every competition. We're being taken over by cats. Because, I mean, rightly so, they need time to like rest. And not hurt themselves. Like you have to come down. You can't, not to get into like the physiology side of stuff, but you also need to give your like sympathetic nervous system some time to like chill out.
Yeah, I guess I think you had talked about this in a previous episode, but it's sort of like you against yourself in some ways, like,
yeah, in every way.
And with the like team sports like American football, like, yeah, you can train and be strong, but someone hits you the wrong way and you're out,
Yeah. I mean, there have been some like not famous, but there's some infamous lifts or like events that cause like a lot of guys, well, not a lot of guys, but some guys have like torn a hamstring deadlifting. Like that's not an uncommon thing. There's not a lot of just like strict bench pressing at all in strongman, which is nice because whatever. But like frame carries, a lot of times some guys will like mess up their hamstring on a frame carry. Torn biceps are common just because
tear. I don't like that word.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, it gets intense. I mean, you have the muscle itself has all this contractile force. And actually, like the way your muscle is made, it's really cool. There's all these like sort of saran wrap kind of around a lot of your muscle cells, and then those are kind of coupled into a bigger saran wrap, and then it comes to the end, and that saran wrap attaches to your bone, and so it's really good for most of the time at connecting muscle to bone and allowing for all that force on it. Mm-hmm. But obviously, there's a limit, right? There's a limit to the amount of force that tendon can handle. And if the force of the muscle contraction is greater than what that tendon can handle, it just snaps tendon. And I mean,
it's not a situation like, obviously when you're straining your muscles, they grow back stronger. In any of these type of tear injuries, they're not. Are they coming back stronger?
Grow back is whatever. Well, I'm not going to go teacher mode on it.
Okay,
but
still, I've heard. Yeah. Like the stress causes growth or strengthening. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, assuming like you go through the healing process the way you should, and your body's allowed to heal. Yeah, I mean, you'll grow back as strong. maybe a little bit stronger. I mean, bone breakage is a little bit of a different thing, but like, yeah, you might be better. But yeah, and it's not always tendon breaking either. I mean, the muscle itself can tear, and that might be happening due to some sort of other thing, like stretching the muscle, like an implement that's stretching the muscle instead of contractile force ripping something. This would be like maybe hyperextending something. And then there's other random stuff like Evan Singleton, World's Strongest Man, dropped a frame on his foot.
Oh boy.
Or it wasn't a frame. I think it was the Super Yoke or something like that. It was the Knack medley. But like there's stuff like that. You just, I mean, whatever. You can't control that. But
you don't want to get injured.
No, you don't.
You don't.
But it's amazing how fast these guys pop back, and it's amazing how they don't. Like sometimes it's a bump in the road, and they keep going. You know, the bigger the collection of muscles, or the bigger the thing that goes, the bigger the problem, right? So I mean, if you tear a hamstring, that's a huge collection of muscles on the back of your thigh. Like that's a significant thing. Whereas like if you tweak an ankle or something, that's whatever, probably just take some medication. But yeah, and if you're bored, you can always go on YouTube and look up lifting injuries, and there's plenty of them.
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I want to watch them carry those sandbags.
Yeah, there's one infamous strongman video that makes it to everybody where an individual is trying to lift an Atlas stone, and he sort of like hyperextends his body, and then it like falls back on him.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, so Lucy Underdown, Rebecca Roberts, Moore came in first, second, and third. They did really well. That we expected that. Their names are known in the world. They've made a name for themselves, and not that these other people won't. It's just that a lot of them just haven't had the time or the reps, literally, in a competition like this. But Giants Live is giving, time, publicity, and what they can to grow, strength
great.
sports in general. And so it's great. And then you get people like Lucy Underdown, who's she's an insane athlete. Yeah.
Excited to see
where
she goes.
Yeah, and I think that the more time and the more events like this that we get, and the more that they get in the they get not radio time, but they get some publicity. People know who they are. They're all on social media. You can find basically all these people on social media, because if you haven't learned by this point in time, strongman and arm wrestling basically survive on social media.
Yeah,
which we could break into briefly talking about the Challenger Series if you want.
I mean, you and Anthony were texting, and I was reading what you guys were saying while it was going on.
What if I just, like, the unfortunate part is, like, the actual arm wrestling that happened is not what's getting the most publicity after this. Why don't I maybe set the stage, and then we can like come back to it a little bit? Sure.
I mean, this was a big arm wrestling event in America.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a good
it's huge
movement in the scene.
So East versus West is usually going on in Turkey, or not here. And this was the Challenger Series was in Florida. So we had as far as I understand, since the WAL ended, we really haven't had a big event of this magnitude stateside since. So this is a big deal. It's sort of it's a tangent of East versus West. So it's not considered East versus West numbered wise. East versus West 13 is coming up, but this is East versus West Challenger Series. And you had a lot of guys from the United States, some people from elsewhere, some people we haven't seen in some time, like Matt Mask, who's fantastic, and some younger people. And I mean, it was great. It was a great event. It was. I think it was. As far as production quality goes, probably one of the best that has happened, and I hope that continues.
Yeah, I didn't catch it. Same style production as King of the Table 11,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, no,
were there more people there watching it?
Yeah, and it was. I mean, it was like the stream was way better. It had its ups and downs, obviously, which I think is like we kind of have to accept that to a level, maybe. And one big boo boo when it went down for a little bit, but at least as far as we had. But I think overall the event went really well, and I think it's a win because I also think that it got a lot of people who have never even like considered arm wrestling as a thing to be like, oh, there's this thing happening in Florida, and some guys that came back from like before. Travis Bajan came back, who is fantastic, and so I think it was a really good event. The conflict is. So we know Devin Larratt. If you've listened to this podcast or you have any idea what's going on in arm wrestling, Devin Larratt is in there. And his son, Auden Larratt, started arm wrestling. Then obviously your dad is Devin Larratt.
Family business.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you follow them at all, they're like their arm wrestling lifting equipment and their exercise equipment is just in their living room. And so, like, I mean, I don't know. You literally grew up with it. And Auden Larratt arm wrestled a guy who doesn't have a ton of clout in the arm wrestling world. And there is some disagreement about if.
So Auden was trained on a lot of the secret techniques. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, well, he was definitely trained on Devin's technique because I don't think no matter who you are, and if you look at this with an objective point of view, he has a lot of similarities to his dad, and that I think I can make that statement without.
I don't think you said anything controversial.
There are some who would argue that the match was maybe not 100% fair. Depending on some rulings, like depending on some reffing, which I feel like we beat that horse, and we will probably more, but obviously reffing is a part of the thing here. And then also the way that Auden held himself after winning, or the way that he. I
mean, he's a young
dealt
person
with
who
that. Yeah,
being thrown to a big event like this, like I'm sure.
Yeah, I
it's
think
like excitement, nerves, like you know.
Yeah, and I mean you've watched your dad, I mean, who's a multiple-time world champion, do this for your entire life, and it's sort of a chance to maybe I don't know do your own thing. Well, not do your own thing, do your dad's thing. But really what's come of this is that Devin is not happy with the internet community, specifically the Reddit community.
I mean, who's happy with the Reddit community?
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's fair. That's fair. And I think there are plenty of people on Reddit who understand what Reddit is, and they're like, okay, chill out. Devin made some strong comments about his opinion of people on Reddit, but I don't know. It is. I don't want to dive too far into it because it just kind of is a thing. If you're interested in that, you probably already know about it. But I think the bigger take-home message is it was a great event. And then, Anthony, I can talk about matches themselves maybe later. But
were you happy with the pairings they had?
I mean, I think the card was better than. I mean, it was better than a lot of the other ones. It was better than King of the Table. That's for sure. I mean, you had better matchups. Obviously, there are going to be some weird ones. Like, this is also in a sport where you're doing one-on-one matchups. There's going to be ones that are just a little weird based on who you have to come. Because it's not like it's not like you open up a giant book of there's 8,000 professional arm wrestlers to choose from. It's like, I mean, you don't have a huge number of people to choose from. But I think it went well as an event.
Yeah. It's good to hear.
And it's just nice to have it happening in the United States. So there's more stuff happening in the United States. There's going to be the First Giants Live event that's happening in the United States coming up. they're doing the deadlift championships in the United States, which is exciting because I think we're going to see some pretty insane things going down there.
Is that open to everyone?
You have to qualify, yeah.
Okay.
And there's a lot of other qualifiers, or there's qualifying events to get in there. But there's some big dudes that are training for that. And I'm expecting more Challenger Series stuff. And then I don't know if it's true or not, but there's been some like whispers of the WAL coming back between like Michael Todd and some other guys. I don't know. Cool. I mean, it'd be amazing if it did. And I hope it does, but
Yeah. Would those be in America?
Yeah.
UK?
yeah. They'd all the WAL issues were in either the United States, well, North America. And it was made, there's a lot of Canadian arm wrestlers. There's a lot. And I don't know what I don't know if that's like I think they just have a lot of like some more not organization, but like, I don't know, there's more opportunity, like if I wanted to arm wrestle and like I wanted to do it and get trained by someone, I would have to drive at least an hour once every other week to train for maybe like a couple hours with somebody who knows what they're doing. Which, I mean, that doesn't build a sport. And I think like having more access to more people who know what they're doing could be huge. But if you have that embedded already, like Ottawa, for whatever reason, has a lot of support and places to go and people to learn from, and that's great. So they turn out a lot of arm wrestlers. Us around here, we don't have a ton, but that's okay.
Maybe it'll change.
I hope it changes. Yeah.
Yeah, Challenger Series, good event.
Yep, good event. I think I'm hoping for more. It'll be fun. A lot of guys back in the game who haven't been in for a while, and that's exciting to see them come back. Because arm wrestling is also a weird sport in the sense that like someone could be gone for many, many years and then sort of like come back and do okay. Then a lot of these guys are not necessarily blowing everybody away, but it's nice to have them back in the world. And a lot of the guys that didn't get a lot of these guys don't do this because they get paid a bunch of money and there's screaming fans everywhere.
No, it's from a mild outsider's view here. It is fun to watch these competitions where like they're doing it purely for the love of arm wrestling. And I mean it does have that attraction as someone like, wow.
Yeah. I think
fun to watch people really into this sort of niche thing, but
I think it
taking
pulls
it
in,
seriously.
Yeah, and I think it pulls in a lot of people. Same thing with strongman too. It pulls in a lot of people who are kind of like, I don't know if I want to say this, but I mean like some people that are kind of like outsiders that maybe don't have like a group, they don't have a people, and these sports want to grow so bad, so they're so open to anybody that wants to even give it a whirl, and like the people who are in it are passionate about it because you have to be because there's no like, your ROI is
I mean, like we were
huge.
talked about like injuries and whatnot, like, but worst case scenario, you get fit,
yeah, yeah, or you have like crazy grip strength, yeah. I mean, there's this, at higher levels, there's probably an expectation for some supplementation, possibly through a syringe, but I mean that's not a like no one's at your local gym. That's probably not a problem. Well, okay, it's probably a problem, but not for the people that want to come and lift heavy stones. Probably there's some like people trying to get shredded or whatever, and then that's probably a thing. But yeah, so looking forward, we've got some things ahead. Like I said before, there's some stateside events coming up pretty far in the future. But there's some other, more now things coming up. There's a lot of regional events going on that I don't think that we may may be able to touch on a little bit. But right now are all the qualifiers for the official strongman games, the final official strongman games, which is in our hood, and we are going to be there. So check that out, official strongman games. We will be there. We'll have a booth. We'll figure out what we're going to do.
True. Yeah, I mean, we'll be there hanging out, seeing what's going on.
I think we'll get a ton of coverage for that. But right now, all those qualifiers are going on. So there's qualifiers going on all over the United States. There's a bunch of UK qualifiers already happened, and some other places in the world. But all those are qualifying for people to come. There are going to be 400 athletes between all the different classes coming to compete, and that's a lot of people. But those events are happening now.
Yeah, go to the official Strongman Games website and
check it out. I mean, it's going to be great.
See what they got.
There are some other sort of bigger, some other stuff coming. So East vs. West 13 is coming up July 6th. So that's going to be, that's another Engen product. The card looks okay. I don't want to go into it. It'll probably change 8,000 times between now and then, depending on who can make it and who can't. The Strongman Classic is going to be a big event. That's coming up July 13th. That will be watchable on the official strongman.com if you're a member, which is not overly expensive. And if you're into this at all, it helps grow stuff. But a lot of people confirmed for the Strongman Classic, like big names, guys that we haven't seen since World's Strongest Man. Will be back in the throws for that one. East vs. West 14 is in August. Maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but that's coming up in August. And then official Strongman Games Europe qualifiers are happening in August. So, I mean, there's stuff to look forward to both on the arm wrestling and the Strongman front.
Yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah. I don't have Anthony's witty sign off.
Yeah, we'll have new episodes coming up soon.
Yeah, and remember, if you're gripping, we love you.
Or if you're gripping, we're also gripping with you.
Yeah, grip together.